Mizoram is a state in the northeast of India with Aizawl as its capital. It shares borders with three states, namely Tripura, Assam, and Manipur. The state also shares a 722-kilometer border with the neighboring countries of Bangladesh and Myanmar. In fighting the global COVID-19 pandemic, the state has taken up various precautions. The first initiative in fighting against the novel coronavirus dated back to 15th March 2020 when the state government announced to observe 14 days of home quarantine for people coming home from outside the state. The initiative was quickly responded by the NGOs, Sports Council and churches by calling off all social gatherings, sports events and church services. The state eventually declared a lockdown following the Janta curfew observed on 22nd March 2020. Since then, the state continued to call on lockdown restrictions, providing necessary guidelines for its people, government employees, essential workers, and the control of essential commodities for its people. The fight against coronavirus is an overall contribution in Mizoram. Following the safety measures and restrictions put forth by the government, the contribution of the NGOs, local task force, and the church is unquestionably the driving force as to why the Mizo community is able to maintain a well-disciplined and effective fight against the pandemic, thus making Mizoram one among the few states that do not require external forces or any kind of lathi charge to maintain discipline. Voluntary local task force had been formed under the state task force through the village or local council along with the various NGOs. The local task force took the responsibility in maintaining the lockdown in their respective localities, and they also cater to the essential requirements of the people. Since community well-being is an important aspect of the Mizo people, contributions have been donated to the Chief Minister's Relief Fund. The donation is not only contributed by the local community, but also NGOs, churches, institutions, various associations, private companies, and so on. The local task force has also utilized these donations to buy essential commodities for the local people, aiding them with essential grains and groceries. When one talks of community well-being, voluntary act is never a new gesture among the people. This goes along with the Mizo Code of Conduct, Tlom Ngai Na, which means being hospitable, kind, helpful, and selfless act towards others. Tlom Ngai Na to a Mizo stands for the compelling moral force which finds expression in self-sacrifice for the service of others.
Aizawl Civil Hospital Blood Bank ten tundin huna hian thisen anta chama achan chu kan thria tangin hemi blood donation calendar po hi kanin lockdown awang hen engma ti theilowa chu wang chuan way me te bitin central way me ten mangan thuron thlena central way me chon ngai toin khai chu tiang huna chon thei top thing kan tang tur lom tin tuna hian rom hanna siama voina hian ama saber tan ti ko so branch way me ten ti ko so branch way me hola tuna hian thi sen pek bo sai meka hi tu like kan boro on film kurangai le maya chu wang chuan petu lampo kin chia pe noi lovin film kur takin car all thing siamin tiang chuan tu rai thi sen pek nei mekania.
Likewise, since the onset of the pandemic, home-tailored PPE have been contributed by various tailors across the land to meet the shortage of supply for the health workers, the local task force on duty. Adding to that, public footpaths and railings had been disinfected by the local communities, all of which is done voluntarily. Since the lockdown has restrained the supply of commodities, the local task force thereafter controlled the opening and closing of shops and the supply of essential commodities. For essential groceries, the local task force collected fresh vegetables in a bulk and distributed them from house to house at a lower rate, or in some cases, free of cost. The distribution of food is further extended towards non-Mizo workers, truck drivers and laborers who were stranded in Mizoram during the initial lockdown.
तो हम लोग यहाँ लॉकडाउन पे बस करीब पिछले कुछ दिन हम लोग बंद पड़े थे, लेकिन अभी हम लोग का काम चालू हुआ है। मटेरियल के पूरा प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है और हम लोग का खाने के बारे में थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन फिर भी हम लोग का मालिक हम लोग का सब काम खाने का बंदोबस्त करके दे रहा है। फिर भी पूरी खाने का बंदोबस्त नहीं कर पा रहे वो लोग भी, क्योंकि यहाँ पे सब लोग जहाँ से आता है वो उधर पे लॉकडाउन पड़ा हुआ है, इसीलिए हम लोग का थोड़ा बस प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, इतना ज़्यादा नहीं। और अभी हम लोग का काम चल रहा है और कोई घर जाने वाले थे वो अभी घर भी नहीं जा पा रहे, बस वही हम लोग का प्रॉब्लम है, बस वही बोलने वाले हैं।
Although there are loopholes and violations in every disciplinary setup, it is impressive to note how Mizo community maintained social distance and how they refrain from unnecessary hoardings. Since Mizoram is predominantly a Christian community, the people hold a peaceful anchor in their Christian faith. This may be one of the reasons why the community experiences unity in their discipline and their motive to help one another in times of crisis. For the safety of the public, the Mizoram police had been camping out at the borderline since the lockdown. Borderline safety is requisite as Mizoram was initially declared a green zone. Again, the Mizoram police have been accompanied by voluntary local groups. These groups are mainly from the nearby villages of the border camps. The work put forth by these forces enveloped the land with security and safety, and it also prevented the land from possible outside breach. In this way, the state has been able to contain the spread of the virus at close watch. However, although the state is doing a great job in maintaining discipline, more people have come home from other states of India, even from foreign countries, some from red zones. The state had arranged special transportations for its people who were stranded outside the state. Since then, more than 10,000 people have entered Mizoram. Hence, strict observation of lockdown remains crucial. The people coming home from outside borders are kept in quarantine centers, for which the state conveniently utilizes local churches as quarantine centers. At the quarantine centers, the state provided a meal of Rs 300 per person. But on the bright side, some local churches even fund for the meals in their respective churches, free of cost.
Nangin ompuin thamua nangche pale fa pale thara
Moreover, Youth fellowships even care to supply tea and snacks for these people. According to Information and Public Relations Department, Government of Mizoram dated 24th June 2020, there were 125 confirmed COVID-19 cases, out of which 20 were cured and discharged. As on 13 July 2020, there were 233 total cases, of which 82 were active and 151 discharged. Among the total cases recorded, 144 were male and 89 female. Fortunately, the state has not recorded any deaths on COVID-19, which is a huge relief in such traumatic times. Till today, the state has taken up strict precautions at the borderline and also within the community, imposing its people to wear masks and avoid going out as much as possible. Shops are allowed to be open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Vehicles are allowed to go out on alternate days and restricted altogether on Sundays. These necessary precautions vary from place to place depending on the sensitivity of COVID-19 cases in their area. Looking at the scenario, the fight against COVID-19 will remain an ongoing process. However, it is delightful to note that the fight against coronavirus is a battle which each of the people takes responsibility of, each in their own field and locality. It is our wish and hope that we shall soon overcome this pandemic, the effectiveness of which is never personal, but only when the community joins hands with one another. Until then, stay safe, stay at home.